Welcome to KelownaNow Live. I'm Jim Check. I'm here today with Loyal Wooldridge, City Councillor, and Jessica Samuels. And we're going to talk about
the Hope Outreach Gala that's coming up on November 18th.
Another great community event.
Absolutely. Masquerade theme.
Masquerade theme? I could use a mask.
Well, then you should be there.
You've hosted it 3 years in a row, you were just saying?
Yeah, 3 years in a row. So it's awesome that we can be back in person. The first year that Toby Tanis and I hosted it up at the View, we had to host it virtually with not masquerade masks, but healthcare masks. So it'll be nice to actually be in person.
There you go. And where is it this year?
It's at the Metro Community Hub.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. So let's get it out on the table right
let's
away.
Just
Tickets are still available.
That's right.
You can get them on Trellis at the Metro Hub. Doors open at 6 o'clock. So there's the need to know information.
So what's the what are if people are going to it? What's the dress like? What's expected of people when they go to this event?
Glam masquerade.
Glam masquerade. There you go.
When we met with the organizers, they said Venetian ball masquerade.
Oh wow!
So that kind of elicited all kinds of thoughts and ideas, and I'm doing the Google image search, and
nice.
so yeah. And there's going to be a prize for best dress.
I think best dress, best costume, and of course the amazing Roma Nord, which is the new Italian restaurant in the Rotary Center.
That's
is
who's
catering.
Oh wow, nice.
Which if you haven't been there, phenomenal.
I have
food.
not been there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So the whole point of it, and what I love actually about Roma Nord doing this, is that it's really bringing the community together. And the story behind Roma Nord is that it's a family, and they're opening this restaurant, and it's kind of the family that runs it. So the idea of connection is being brought to the event. And in fact, a large portion of the meal is going to be family style.
Oh wow.
Which, don't get nervous. I think the whole point is that we're coming together to recognize that there are desperate folks in our community who desperately need the help that Hope Outreach provides.
So yeah, maybe just tell us a little bit about Hope Outreach and what it does for the community.
Yeah, so I specifically love Hope Outreach because they work primarily with vulnerable folks that work in the sex trade industry, doing outreach on our streets 24/7. They're often out at night supporting folks that work in the industry, handing out sanitary products, but also healthcare related products. And I feel that sector of our community is often marginalized and forgotten about, and so they do amazing work to support folks that are most vulnerable in that way.
Right. And one of the things that I really appreciate is, of course, Hope Outreach has been around for a decade, give or take, and kind of this idea of maybe a stigma associated with sex trade workers and the life circumstances, or perhaps some folks might think the choices that they've made to reach those circumstances. And with this organization, there's no judgment, and it's really focusing on people who have been desperate in their lives. And so whether it is financial circumstances that have led them to this, some of them are homeless, so they're trying to survive. Some of them have substance use issues, so they're trying to survive. And I think when we take a look at the number of people across our community that are facing these types of issues today, and sex trade workers are part of that community, I think we can understand that it's not an us and them situation. It is really a group of folks that we do need to support and to help.
So this event has a hope to raise. Is there an idea of what your target is to raise?
I think a lot of money.
A lot of money.
All of the money.
All of the money that
They haven't given us the specific
Right.
number yet.
Right.
We're proud to host it, and I think Jess, you touched on a really important part about this evening, and that's community connection. And I think when we look at the social challenges that we're faced with in our community, a lot of it comes down to trauma and the lack of connection. And so especially our most vulnerable that are often marginalized, like I already said, they really need us to come together as community. And I think how the event is being organized with family style meals and bringing us all together really exudes that level of community connection.
And I always say, I think we're always measured at the lowest part of our community. Like, if we don't care about the lowest part of the community, that measures on everybody, right? So
I was thinking about that phrase. I swear, I was thinking about that as we came up today, and how can we measure our success as a community when we have folks out there who are struggling? And some of these problems seem so big and they might feel too big to address. But the fact is that when you have organizations like Hope Outreach who are out there every night, like Loyal said, they're in Kelowna, they're also in Vernon, they're doing this work and they're helping hundreds of people. And I think we should define help. So help isn't necessarily getting them off the streets in that moment. It's building their trust, building that network, and giving them those guiding lights and navigation points so that they can...
It's just a sparkle of hope too, right? Sometimes, right? Just a reaching hand out.
Yeah.
How much are the tickets?
They're $99.
Are they?
Yes. They're $99, which is a steal of a deal when you're talking about...
And you're doing so
affordable.
much good too, right? You're getting dinner,
affordable.
you're getting a fancy night out.
Yeah, and we do
and you're doing good, right?
We do recognize that times are tough for everybody right now. So at that $99 price point, it makes it accessible to more people, and it really is having a huge impact. This is an organization that's funded by mostly volunteers. There's one other thing that I want to point out as well that might also resonate with folks is that they also have this bad date report. So this is actually a report so that if you are a sex trade worker or somebody who has a date and it goes badly, they have a system in place to report this. And I mean, this is a whole other factor that we're not taking into account, that there can be situations where women from all backgrounds and all
So that
ages
could be just
or
somebody just
individuals
on an app, something like that, has a bad date, she should record it. So that,
and individuals in general who are in a bad situation, and they can, help them get through it.
Well, that sounds useful for a lot of, especially young people when they're going through those apps and stuff like that. Because there's how many apps is there these days, right?
Well, and you don't know. Someone can say anything online or say anything, and then you find yourself in a spot where you don't know how to get out of it. So when we think about the vast scope of support that Hope Outreach provides, real grassroots organization, it goes to show that $99 on November 18th will really go a long way.
And hosting it again?
Hosting,
we're hosting it together this time.
This will be my first time. So, it's an organization that I've heard a lot about, happy to be involved, and lots to learn from working with Loyal, who's been invested in this for quite some time.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really passionate about the social challenges that we have in Kelowna, and obviously there's a lot of work to continue to do. But again, it's really connecting with our most marginalized, our most underrepresented, to understand how they've been downtrodden. And I think the Bad Date app is a great subject, because that just re-traumatizes people, and that's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with right now, and we see it on our streets every single day. So it's these agencies that are grassroots, that are funded by donors and run by basically all volunteers that are up all night long supporting people. So if we're to overcome the social challenges we have in our communities across the nation, it's organizations like Hope that are going to help us get there.
So if we look in the backdrop here, Kelowna's beautiful.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you scratch the veneer a little bit, sometimes you'll see the issues that need attention. How do they get tickets? Like, where do they go online, or how do they get access to tickets?
So trellis.org, and you can search for the Hope fundraiser there. And there are $99 each, the tickets, but if you buy 2 or more or a table, there are some special deals that you can find online.
How big's the table? Like 10?
Oh golly, I think they're 8.
8. I believe they're 8.
Tables of 8.
Yeah. So why are you? That was a very specific question. Are you going to be calling up some friends there?
Nikki doesn't let me go to events. She goes to all the events.
Oh, I see.
They keep the mushrooms in the back room. I'm sure Nikki will be there.
Well, and you make the point of this beautiful city, and it's not an either or. We can still appreciate the beauty and all of the things that city has to offer. At the same time, though, we can recognize that there are things that need to be addressed.
Sure,
so it's not meant to make people feel guilty about their privilege or what we can afford or can't afford. This is to say, you know what? I have the power to lift somebody up. How can I use that power for the best good?
I think that's a better tomorrow is by just extending a hand.
100%.
Man.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
You know, I think it's important that there's a lot of frustration and angst right now in the community around the social challenges that we have. And that's not lost on me. And my council inbox is filled almost every single day with people's ideas and opinions and frustrations, frankly. But organizations like Hope serve as the first touch point for people to be able to transition to get help. And I was at International Overdose Awareness Day at the end of August, and I had 2 women come up to me that said, you know, I used to work on the street. I was a sex trade trade worker. I was connected in with Karis support, and now they're on a path to recovery, which hasn't been linear. Like they still will slip into addiction here and there. Yeah. But again, it's developing trust. It's starting with outreach, and that's always the first step to supporting people. So I think a lot of people want to skip to a really simple, easy answer of, people just need to stop using substances and get off the street and earn their home. But these outreach services are really that first touch point, very labor intensive and very, very, takes a lot of time, but it is, when you hear those success stories, it makes it completely worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I think most people just want hope, right? And I think like they lose hope sometimes because they don't see help coming. And I think a lot of Canadians feel that way right now too, with the situation they're in, and like financially and stuff like that too. So it's probably not that hard sometimes to go from like having a decent job, and then it's kind of like you just slide down the steps, and then you feel like you're forgotten, and then all of a sudden you end up in a situation that maybe you think's not even in your control, right? And then you make some bad decisions. So I think if people can extend their hand to help those people back, just up the ladder as opposed to sliding down further.
Yeah,
Exactly.
There's many pathways that have led to sex trade workers or homeless individuals or individuals who are struggling with substance misuse that has gotten them to that point. And so that means there's many pathways to helping them move from that.
Right.
And I think, I really value the work that our council does and Mayor, and how organizations, grassroots organizations like Hope Outreach
I try to say to the people, think of a grade 6, like somebody in grade 6. They don't have a plan to move out to the street and get addicted to drugs and do all these things.
Not even grade 6. We didn't wake up today and think that I want to be homeless. I didn't wake up today and think that the cost of gas, the cost of groceries, my mortgage are all going to be things that are going to put me on the streets. I was at an event this morning that said for the most of us, we are 3 paychecks. Right. Or sir, we have 3 months kind of buffer. Yep. And these are individuals who are making $150,000 or more per household. So if you're one of those individuals, you probably feel like you're doing okay. But then we have this cascade of events that could happen that could drastically change your circumstances.
That's what I'm saying. So anybody can actually end up there. So the more that we can help people out of there and let people know that there's help out there.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. So bring it right back. Trellis.org. It's the Hope Outreach Eyes Wide Open Gala, November 18th. And if you do come say hi to Loyal and I, and Jim, he'll be there too. We'd love to
I think they're going to buy a table after this interview.
I think my wife, my daughter, and we'll be there. And then I'll be at home watching the dog.
There you go.
Well, thank you for coming in. That's always been great. Right?
Thank you for having us. Thanks.
And then we'll wait for Marcy to kind of take us out. We don't know when that happens, when we're live.